This section is all about arthropods. Now there are two objectives that you need to make sure you're keeping an eye on for today. The first is to describe the major characteristics of arthropods, so what do all of these species have in common? And the second objective is to identify the main groups of arthropods. Now there are a number of different species that fall into this category, so pay extra close attention to the answer to that second objective as we go along today. Speaking of there being a lot of arthropods, hopefully you noticed in the book as you were taking your notes that biologists have identified over 875,000 species of arthropods. Now, many of those arthropods are insects, but insects aren't the only group that fall under this big, broad category. Spiders, crabs, lobsters, centipedes, millipedes, scorpions, all of those animals are also considered to be arthropods. The Earth has more species of arthropods than all other animals combined. So if you take all the mammals, you take all of the worms, you take all of the simple invertebrates we've talked about, plus all the other vertebrates that we haven't discussed yet, put them all together, and that still doesn't equal the number of arthropods out there. As a matter of fact, over 75% of the species of animals on Earth are arthropods. Even though it's a very broad group, arthropods all share a number of characteristics in common. For instance, all arthropods have segmented bodies with specialized parts. Now, we saw segmentation back when we talked about worms, right? Our segmented worms, like the earthworm, had repeating segments that we saw over and over and over again. But notice that when we get into these arthropod animals or species, now each of these segments has a specialized part. In our earthworm, we saw the same body segment basically over and over and over again. If we're talking about an arthropod, we're going to oftentimes see something different in each segment that we look at. Arthropods also have jointed limbs. Just like you and I, we can bend our arms, we can bend our fingers. All of those places where we bend are called joints. We see them here. Arthropods have an exoskeleton, which we'll talk more about in a little bit, a well-developed nervous system, an open circulatory system, which remember means that they don't have a heart, they don't really have blood vessels. The blood is just sort of sloshing around, moving from one part of the organism to the other. It's not as efficient as what you and I have with our closed circulatory systems. And all arthropods also reproduce sexually, but now in a slightly more advanced way. If you think back to our worms from a previous section, they had the option of sort of self-fertilizing with both the male and the female reproductive organs in the same organism. Here we see only internal fertilization in arthropods, meaning that the sperm and the egg cells come from two different organisms and they unite inside of the female organism. Like our annelid worms, our segmented worms from the previous section, arthropods are also segmented. However, most arthropods are going to have specialized segments, meaning that we see different structures, things like wings and antennae, gills, pincers, claws, in each of these unique parts. Now, during development, a number of arthropods are going to have segments that fuse together. And so instead of seeing lots and lots and lots of segments like we did in our earthworms, oftentimes in an arthropod, you're only going to see about 3. Oftentimes, the segments you'll see in an arthropod are the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. Now, you and I have a head, and you and I have an abdomen, but the thorax is sort of new and unique to our arthropods. Notice in these two pictures on the screen that the thorax would sort of be like our chest cavity. The wings, if an arthropod is going to have wings, will be located on the thorax. The eyes and a lot of the sense organs will be located on the head, and a lot of the digestive organs and the reproductive system will typically be located in an arthropod's abdomen. We talked on a previous slide about how all arthropods have jointed appendages or jointed limbs. This is really important. This is the first time we've seen that. And these jointed limbs are actually what give arthropods their name. The prefix arthro, you might have learned this during your word etymology stuff, for LA means joint. If a person has arthritis, that's when their joints start to get all sore and hard to bend. So arthro and arthritis means joint as well. And the other part of arthropod is pod, and that's actually a suffix that means foot. If you ever have an injury to your foot, you'll go and you'll see a specialized doctor called a podiatrist. The P-O-D in the beginning of podiatrist actually means foot as well. So arthropods have jointed limbs. They have jointed legs oftentimes. That means that their legs are able to bend. You see a picture of a jointed limb there on the screen. These jointed limbs are a huge asset because they make movement a whole lot easier. So arthropods are going to be fairly advanced in the movements that they're able to make. A side note, you probably have noticed that there have been a lot of videos on the screen so far, and you will notice more videos in the slides to come. I'm going to post all of these video links on my website so that you have the opportunity to watch as many of them as you would like. I am going to require that you pick at least 3 of the videos to watch. If you want to watch them all, that's great. If you only want to watch your favorite 3, that is okay too. All arthropods, in addition to having jointed limbs and segmentation, are also going to have a hard external skeleton. So we call this an exoskeleton. You probably recognize that prefix X as meaning on the outside of. We exit a room, we go out of the room. An extrovert is a person that's always looking to be outside and talking with people, right? So an exoskeleton is an external skeleton that still supports a structure like the endoskeleton that you and I have inside our bodies, made all the bones that are connected through joints and like ligaments and tendons. But the exoskeleton of a arthropod really, it serves a lot of functions for the creature. It supports the body. It allows for movements. When the muscles of an arthropod are actually contracting, they're pushing against the exoskeleton of the animal. That's what's bracing their muscles. They act like a suit of armor and provide a great deal of protection for the internal organs, the internal anatomy of the arthropod, and the exoskeleton keeps the organisms from drying out. It keeps water from escaping from inside of these creatures. An exoskeleton is made up of a substance called chitin. This is a protein chain. We call it a polymer, and it's because of the way it's structured, very flexible and very strong. Both of those qualities are huge assets for our arthropods. Many arthropods have a well-developed brain and nerve cord. Sometimes they have specialized sense organs like bristles to detect motion and vibration, things like pressure, things like chemicals. There are some arthropods that aren't able to see very well. They have simple eyes that are really only able to detect light versus dark. But lots and lots of arthropods have compound eyes. That means that their eyes have lots of light detectors built into them. This is an asset. It sort of allows the arthropods to see in a 360-degree radius. It would be like you looking at a control screen in like a security room where there are lots of cameras inputting video feed to the same wall of screens. Now, arthropods have a lot of characteristics in common, but they also have some very distinct differences. The main differences between these groups of arthropods that we're about to look at have to do with appendages, specifically the number of legs, the number of eyes, and the number of antennae. When we're talking about an antennae, we're talking about a feeler, a sense organ, that's located on the head of an arthropod. Crustaceans, like crabs, have these. Insects, as you can see on the screen, have antennae as well. Antennae are awesome sense organs because they allow the organism to take in multiple types of sensory information. Antennae allow organisms, like the insects on the screen, to touch, to taste, and also sometimes to smell. Crustaceans are arthropods that have either 2 or 3 body sections. Remember, we talked about the 3 often being the head, the thorax, and the abdomen earlier. Crustaceans also have 3 pairs of appendages that they use for chewing. They have 5 or more pairs of legs, and each pair will be attached to a different section of that body. And they have not 1 but 2 pairs of antennae. That really sets crustaceans apart. Having 2 pairs of antennae, they're the only arthropods that do. Most crustaceans begin life as microscopic swimming larvae. So you see a life cycle for a crab on the screen. And what I've done is I've pulled pictures of the zoea and the megalope which are two of the earlier stages of a crab's life cycle. And they're the creatures with the black backgrounds there. Notice how different they look from what we would close our eyes and picture or think of when we think of a crab. This is because crustaceans go through a process called metamorphosis. This is when an animal's body undergoes a dramatic change during the course of its life cycle. We oftentimes think of butterflies when we think of metamorphosis. They go from being the caterpillar to being in the cocoon to having wings and being able to fly. Crustaceans live in watery environments, and they can really live in any watery environment out there. They can live in freshwater, like lakes and rivers, or even puddles that are around for a long time. They can live in the ocean on the coastline, and also in the bottom, the deepest parts of the ocean. Because they live in watery environments, crustaceans oftentimes are going to obtain their oxygen using gills. Lots and lots of crustaceans are scavengers, but there are some that are herbivores and carnivores as well. The pistol shrimp is kind of an interesting little guy. There's a video that you'll be able to watch about him if you would like. It's kind of creepy, but he is a predator. He's super fast, and he has claws that he can use to his advantage. Krill, like this organism up here in the upper right-hand corner, are herbivores. They swarm. They live in packs. The other Nat Geo Wild video is kind of interesting too. That's about another predator crustacean. Now, in addition to crustaceans, spiders or arachnids are arthropods too. Arachnids all have only two body sections, so that sets them apart and makes them unique. All arachnids are also going to have 8 legs and now no antennae at all. They're going to have to get their sensory information in a different way. The two main body parts that we see in an arachnid are the cephalothorax, which is the head and the thorax region that we talked about earlier, combined or fused into one, and then the abdomen, which again, remember, contains reproductive organs and large parts of the digestive tract. Because spiders are land dwellers by and large, they don't breathe through gills. Instead, they breathe through an organism or an organ called a book lung. And a book lung is just a really, really simple version of what you and I have. A book lung is basically just a series of tubes that oxygen can travel through, and they connect to the little holes in the exoskeleton of the arachnid. Arachnids, or spiders, also chew with very specialized claw-like mouth parts called chelicerae. All spiders are predators. They have that chelicerae that they use to eat mostly insects. They use a variety of different tactics to catch their prey. Some of them are going to build webs. Some of them are super fast. All spiders have hollow fangs that they can use to inject venom. That venom essentially just turns the tissue of the prey into mush. Spiders are really going to bite people, thank goodness, because when you think about that, venom is kind of creepy. And if they do bite humans, oftentimes those bites are non-life-threatening, excuse me. There's a video here if you would like to learn more about spiders. Also, there is an extra credit challenge that has to do with how spiders get their food. You can check that out on my website. Choose to do it perhaps by Friday, and again, earn those extra points. In the arachnid category, in addition to spiders, we also see these teeny guys called mites. Now, mites are not predators anymore. They're parasites. That means that they're going to get all of the nutrients that they need from a host, from a different organism that doesn't necessarily benefit from them being there. Mites are everywhere. It's kind of creepy to think about, but the dust that you see lying around your house is mostly dust mites. Dogs and cats, if they ever are scratching their ears, likely it's because they have ear mites that are in there. If you've ever swam in a lake or pond kind of early in the season and gotten all sorts of itchy bums, you probably encountered another type of a mite called a chigger. Chiggers can live in I believe saltwater and freshwater both. Certainly mites can live in saltwater and freshwater both. Interesting facts when it comes to dust mites. Oftentimes if people have dust allergies, they're not reacting to just any old stuff in the air. They're having a specific reaction to the exoskeletons of these tiny mites. They're microscopic oftentimes. We can't see them without a microscope. Ticks are also a type of arachnid, and just like the mites, ticks are parasites. That means that they are going to live off of a host. Nearly all land animals can be preyed on by ticks. Ticks can suck the blood of almost any land animal. Lyme's disease, which is not such a good thing to have, is spread by bites from infected deer ticks. And then scorpions, our last type of arachnid, live in hot climates. They're going to be active at night and hide out during the day. They have spine-like stingers at the end of their abdomen, which is kind of freaky if you think about it, and they use those stingers to inject venom into their prey. Our last category are the centipedes and the millipedes. Now we can tell them apart because they have different levels or different numbers of legs on each segment. Millipedes are going to have 2 pairs of legs on each segment, and centipedes are only going to have 1. They also have mandibles, which are mouth parts they can use for chewing. Here's your homework. Please let me know if you have any questions. You have your 2.2 notes and homework due Friday at 2.